Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 971. An Unconventional Gambit? As to Jun Xie, it's even more simple. Jun Xie is drunk for fame and profit. Although he already has the position of chess champion, he is still unsatisfied. I promised him the position of the chess superintendent of the chess institution of the misty illusory manor, with 4 great beauties as his consorts and 10,000 taels of gold. And promised to deliver young Lady Li, whom he is in love, to his residence and make her his wife. And so he came. And he had to promise to defeat Mo Junyi in one hit. Zhan Yushu spilled everything at one go. Amidst the crowd, Jun Xie's face was deathly pale. His lips were trembling. Jun Xie knew from the disdainful scorns coming from around him that his fate had completely changed with Zhan Yushu's words. It was all over for him. All his numerous efforts and the boundless glory of the past had nothing to do with him right now. They had all become a thing of the past, a part of history. The entire world suddenly turned pitch black. Jun Xie's face turned white and he spat a mouthful of fresh blood and fainted. No one bothered with the chess champion Jun Xie, who was destined to pass his prime. They were all shocked by what Zhan Yushu was saying. Just as Jun Moxie had predicted, Zhan Qingfeng carried all the responsibility upon his own shoulders, freeing Zhan Qingfeng from the mess. This courage and insight alone was impressive. When in his simple recounting alone, it made everyone felt that everything were acts of his own accord and had absolutely nothing to do with his family. And to be able to do it in a situation like this, it was undoubtedly not easy. Truly impressive. Zhan Qingfeng on the other side wore a stiff expression, watching his own younger brother. Who knew how Zhan Qingfeng felt? Suddenly, Zhan Qingfeng rushed forward and slapped Zhan Yushu across his face harshly. He yelled, "You beast! To think that you did something this despicable! How could you do things like this? The Zhan family's reputation of thousands is tarnished by you just like this. Do you have any idea what you are doing? How could you do something this despicable?" Fresh blood appeared on the corner of Zhan Yushu's lips along with this slap. He fell onto the ground from the impact of this unexpected and suddenly slap. Zhan Qingfeng continued to chide, full of anguish and rage, the green veins on his forehead even popping. After a long time, he finally let out a long sigh and said, "Family misfortune. It is really our family's misfortune, ah. Zhan Qingfeng, you have disgraced the Zhan family, and tarnished the reputation of the Zhan family. I swear I will not let you off like this. Although I do not have the authority to punish you, it doesn't mean that you are able to escape the punishments of the family. When we return home, I want to see how you face father and our ancestors. The Zhan family's family law will absolutely not allow nor tolerate any descendant that disgraces the Zhan family." Miao Xiao Miao coldly watched all of this unfold, seeing how the younger brother stood out to carry all the blame and the older brother stepped out to reprimand the younger brother. She suddenly felt like this great show happening was truly amusing. From the initial shock to the amusement right now, she did not even notice this subtle change in her mood. A method like this wouldn't even fool the average person, so what more all these intelligent and wise people present right now? Even if no one pointed it out, everyone could understand what it implicated. Did you really think that everyone else in the world is a fool and only the two of you are clever? Without his reputation of the young master of the Zhan family, if not for the full support of the Zhan family, Zhan Yushu was only a 20-year-old youth. Even with his strength alone, he wasn't capable of becoming a threat to an influential family. And he would not be able to promise Jun Xie so many benefits. All these were beyond the boundaries of Zhan Yushu's capabilities. Although with such an obvious fact, the two brothers of the Zhan family still continued to put on this great show. Because it was one matter for everyone to know, and another for the position of the Zhan family to be degraded like this. It didn't matter whether anyone believed Zhan Qingfeng's current devoted and fair act. This stance had to be shown. Because even if no one believed the claims Zhan Yushu was spouting and they may not expose the truth, there would be some people who denied their conscience and agreed to what he was saying. Second young Master Zhan was acting on his own and has nothing to do with the Zhan family. Miao Xiao Miao was currently thinking. The Zhan family truly plans far ahead. Just Zhan Yushu alone is capable of mobilizing such resources and is willing to protect the Zhan family regardless of the price. This sort of temperament and resolution is no small matter. By contrast, how many of such people like this are there in the Miao family? The Zhan family was capable of bribing Qi Wanjia and threatening Lin Qingyin. Then who else would they threaten or bribe? With their unscrupulous methods in obtaining what they desire. If I may not be able to decipher this information on my own, what more comprehend it, but I must report this in detail to grandfather when I return home. I believe that with their experience, they'll be able to tell and even further analyze the potential danger within it. The third round of battle was once again the great prodigy Mo's victory. And he crippled the person who had started this operation, the second young master Zhan Yushu, along with it. This outcome had resulted in all the other contestants who had originally wanted to try their hand to keep quiet out of fear. Right now, everyone could tell. This Mo Junyi with the free and natural physique was not only a solid prodigy, but a ruthless person and not one to be messed with. He looked like a joke with his first appearance, acting like a country bumpkin, but every single line of his instantly caught the vital points of his enemy. The moment he caught it, congratulations, someone was doomed. And it seemed that he had one more unique trait, and that was that he was extremely petty. Whoever who attacked him would be attacked back. And the incisive way he struck back was enough to make people's hair stand up in anger. From the beginning, he had never initiated provocation. But he had been brewing in his counterattacks. After thoroughly digesting an attack, he would use his most incisive attack, hitting in a single strike. And it was an absolute hit. Every single strike took a person out. Even the two brothers of the Zhan family were no exception. What sort of massive confidence and thick foundation were required to be capable of this? Even just these alone was not enough. It still required extremely sharp observational skills, extremely precise control, and sensitivity that cut. Not a single one of these must be lacking. Someone like this was expected of the legendary free and natural physique. Facing a lunatic like this, what else should they compete in? There was no one else who dared to come forward anymore. Not only were the judges trying to figure out the answer to this question, Zhan Qingfeng wasn't sure of what decision he should make. Right from the beginning, everyone had assumed that the free and natural physique was something in legends, and that it was merely a mystical physique for Xian cultivation. Perhaps his speed for Xian Qi cultivation would be relatively sick, but there was no way he could be perfect in other aspects. How could anyone be perfect? And it was impossible for one to know anything and everything. But right now, the fact lay before their eyes. It had also given all of them a lesson and made them acknowledge an abnormally frightening fact. They had indeed met with a freak whose strength was a profound mystery. Mo Junyi, as the owner of the free and natural physique, had an ordinary Xian cultivation. But he just had to be this well-versed and proficient in all sorts of other random knowledge. When it came to Xian cultivators, they'd only pick up skills of the 4 arts at most. But this fellow, on the other hand, was a great talent in music, a national expert in the art of chess, with poetry skills above all those present, and an ability to think fast in an emergency. A whole bunch of people were using crafty plots and machinations to deal with him, but he had used the same method to deal with the rest of them. Jun Xie sat on a seat in the corner, as if he were awaiting his punishment, his cheeks swollen. But he was extremely concerned with the victory in this next round. He appeared to look gloomy, with his face hanging low, but he secretly transmitted his voice to his older brother. This person is really not ordinary, like the seniors said. This person is clever and quick-witted, and well-versed in all these random skills. If we were to raise another orthodox means of competition, we might just fall into his trap again. The best option we have now is to try to go for an unconventional gambit. Unconventional gambit? Zhang Qingfeng mumbled to himself. Suddenly, his eyes gleamed. This person was born into poverty. He may not have interacted with any rich or wealthy families. Someone like this may be talented in skills, but he definitely does not have a single debauchee bone in him. Zhang Qingfeng's gaze remained fixed on the ground, but the voice that was transmitted into Zhang Qingfeng's ears was extremely sinister. Since we have no confidence in winning him in regular competitions, let's try something he is not familiar with. For example, Zhang Qingfeng's eyes turned brighter. For example, something that debauchees often play. With his level, he definitely hasn't touched it before. Things that debauchees play with is either dog and cock fighting or brothels. Jun Xie scoffed. In other words, maybe gambling or visiting a prostitute, or fighting. Gambling, visiting a prostitute, or fighting. Zhang Qingfeng suddenly felt extremely pleased. Playing with prostitutes, naturally we can't bring it out in an occasion like this to compete. But there should be no big deal with gambling with money, and whatever cock, dog, snake, cricket, xian beast fighting, they can all be used. And there is no chance of us losing. We don't have his talent and skills, but I doubt our luck is worse than his. Don't tell me he can be lucky for his entire life. Zhang Xie chuckled coldly. We had set on 7 rounds, the 4 arts, poetry, wine and tea, and we have already lost the first 3. As to the poetry round, we already know the result without having to go through with it. And calligraphy, that'll also be unnecessary. He is able to have such strong foundations. So he'll definitely be an expert at calligraphy as well. If that's the case, that leaves us with wine and painting. And another round of gambling? Zhang Qingfeng asked, a little confused. No. There is completely no need to compete in painting and wine. With his proficiency in music and poetry, he is definitely no stranger to painting. As long as he reads enough, his awareness of wine will also not be weak. Why don't we just abort them and search for other methods we are more confident in? Zhang Xie said. Let's just use 2 rounds to determine who the victor is. Gambling on money and xian beast fighting. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 972. Side Fortune. Zhang Xie grinned satisfactorily. This fellow is a broke country bumpkin. If it's gambling on money, his mind is definitely not up for it. And even if he gets past this round by luck, there is still beast fighting in the back. Things like cock, dog, and cricket fighting are things that debauchees play with. For precaution's sake, let's go straight into the most profound type of fight. Xian beast. Determining the victor in 2 rounds, through gambling and xian beast fighting? Great idea. Zhang Qingfeng got himself together. Zhang Yushu's suggestion could be said to be extremely cunning. It was a known fact that things like music, chess, poetry, and singing were for building of one's character. Whereas things like gambling and betting on animal fights were things that belonged to a debauchee's area of expertise. Most people were enthralled by the four arts and had dignity and often have a strict family background, so they did not have many opportunities to come in contact with those inappropriate things. These were two different things from two different worlds. And Mo Junyi did not come from a wealthy background. He must have exhausted all of his capabilities to learn so many things. If he surpassed these debauches in the domain of eating, drinking, and being merry, that was something that was absolutely impossible. There couldn't possibly be someone who was the perfect combination of two opposing things, right? Upon making his decision, Zhang Qingfeng's smile became more relaxed. He stepped forward and said, "Brother Mo is truly a talent, winning every single round. I am truly impressed. Next, I do not intend to further waste Brother Mo's time anymore. Let's determine the victor within the next 2 rounds. We only compete for 2 more rounds. If Brother Mo wins both of them, then whatever requests and conditions Brother Mo has, we will offer them straight up. If Brother Mo loses, then we will go according to the agreement of our bet. How's that? 2 rounds? What are we competing on?" Jun Moxie tilted his head. Did he come up with some other despicable move? The first round. We gamble. When Zhang Qingfeng said this, almost everyone lost their footing. This first young master Zhang, who had always been distinguished and amiable and earnest, was saying to use gambling to determine victory. Did I hear it wrongly? Or could it be that I am dreaming? Why is it that everything happening today is so shocking? Miao Xiao Miao was even more surprised. She pondered over it and instantly figured out what the Zhang brothers were scheming. She couldn't help but frown and scolded. Despicable. Gamble? Jun Moxie frowned. Don't tell me this person realized my real identity and is turning around to bootlick me instead. Why is he competing in the areas that I am good at? Practically delivering every single round into my hands. I was really worried that he'd make someone compete with me in calligraphy. This older brother's handwriting is nowhere near that of a great expert. Bloody hell. You're really smart. You could have just gone to look for a male tailor to compete with me in embroidery, or get a woman to come and compete with me in giving birth. Then this older brother would have to admit defeat and act shamelessly a long time ago. But why did you choose all the domains this young master is well versed in to compete? Are you stupid, or are you trying to do a double act with me? This older brother doesn't remember bribing you to do this. Ah. That's right. Gambling it is. The two of us gamble against each other. Everyone starts with 10 million Yang silver bills as our wager, with 20 rounds as the limit. The one with the most money won is the winner. Zhang Qingfeng carefully scrutinized Jun Moxie's face, not missing a single bit of his expression, fearing that he had selected a domain that he was proficient in again. Although the possibility of it was not big. After carefully observing for some time, Zhang Qingfeng finally relaxed temporarily. The other party's look of surprise really didn't look like it was out of pretense. Looks like this suggestion of mine is really beyond his expectations. Since it is beyond his expectations, then that is very, very good. Zhang Qingfeng cackled secretly to himself. He had already set up many traps. He had many strategies in his bets. This round was bound to be a solid victory. But what he didn't know was that Jun Moxie's surprise was indeed real, but not because he didn't know how to gamble, but merely because he was simply too well versed in it. Just like Zhan Qingfeng thought, the victory of this round had really already been determined. Then how do we go about gambling? Jun Moxie pretended to be unfamiliar with the concept. Each person has a card and we flip to see whose is bigger. Zhan Qingfeng was practically on the verge of bursting out in laughter. Fecking hell. As expected. He's a beginner. No. We compete with dice. The total points on the dice will determine the winner. Zhan Qingfeng used a very solemn and serious voice as he said this. We shall play for 20 rounds. Minimum bet for each round is 1 million. Until one side is completely broke. That's simple. Isn't it just throwing dice? I know how to do it. Jun Moxie rubbed his fists. But I haven't played this thing in many years. Oh right. I have to let first young master Zhan know. This young master has lots of side fortune. This sort of wealth loves coming to me. Don't cry when I win later, ah. There's so many people watching. It'll be really embarrassing, ah. And 1 million per round. I don't have that much. Where can I find so much money? How about I make a trip back home to take some from Saint Emperor Chow? I'll lend you. I'll lend you. This same sentence came from two different people at the same time. Namely, Zhan Qingfeng and Miao Xiao Miao. The difference was that Zhan Qingfeng's tone was full of genuine excitement that his prey had fallen into his trap, whereas Miao Xiao Miao's revealed indescribable worry and concern. Since Miss Miao trusts me so much, then I shall borrow 10 million liang from Miss Miao first. If I win later, then naturally, I'll pay her back in double. Since he had already owed Miao Xiao Miao so many favors, Jun Moxie didn't mind owing a bit more. Anyway, I ultimately need to pay this favor back in multiple folds. If I can help you resolve this potential crisis in the future of misty illusory manner, then just take it as my repayment for your kindness. The moment the gambling table and the dice cups were carried out, everyone present turned into stone. After a long while, Zhan Qingfeng looked at the empty table before himself like a statue. Then looking over at that thick pile of bills before Mo Jun Xie, Zhan Qingfeng was practically on the verge of going crazy. Just as young Master Jun's prophecy had it, he really was on the verge of crying. He totally didn't know how he lost. Zhan Qingfeng only felt as if his entire mind was completely blank. He had clearly been winning the previous 8 continuous rounds, leaving the opponent with only 2 million liang left. Victory was clear. He had even mocked Mo Jun Xie. Where did the legendary side fortune go? Your wealth didn't come today. Instead, you are going to be giving your wealth away, ah. There were just 2 more rounds for him to start playing his victory songs. But why did the situation suddenly change in the last 2 rounds? When Mo Jun Xie won 2 rounds, he was still thinking, could it be that this scoundrel's dog-shut side fortune has really arrived? But in the subsequent rounds, he did not win a single one of them. Especially the last few. For the sake of turning the tables around, he increased his bet in hopes of securing his victory in a single round. But it was all to no avail. He completely lost every single bit of the silver bills he had brought. 50 million liang silver bills. Ah! But it was really odd. Both of them were sitting so close to each other, and there were numerous judges watching the match nearby. Not a single one of them was an ordinary person. Even if a Saint Emperor used his Xian Qi here to cheat, he'd be discovered. There was no possible chance of a fluke. This meant that during this entire process, there really wasn't anyone using their Xian Qi to cheat. Ah! But the opponent had won by such a steady margin. This scoundrel's movement for tossing die were not even up to standard. It was completely like a greenhorn's movements. But any single one of his random tosses gave him a greater number of points than mine. There was even a round where I had 6, 6, and 5. This was already a divine number, But with a couple of random tosses, it was a triple 6. Is there something sneaky going on? Or is that he really has some sort of side fortune? You lose. Mo Jun Xie cried out excitedly. Then, Mo Jun Xie hugged all the silver bills and walked over to Miao Xiao Miao. Miss Miao, thank you for your 10 million liang. Otherwise, it'd really be embarrassing for me. I said earlier that if I won, I'll repay you back in double. Here. This is the principal and interest of 30 million liang. Please check, hahaha. It was really playing back in double, Aside from the principal of 10 million, the other 20 million liang were a huge bonus. Of course, this was only half of the wager. For the sake of trying to recoup his losses, first young Master Zhan had lost a total of 50 million liang silver bills. With the 10 million Miao Xiao Miao had loaned him, having it would be 30 million liang. So Jun Moxie just divided it evenly between the two of them. 30 million liang, This was a rather shocking amount. Aside from being shocked, everyone was lamenting inwardly. Why didn't I take the initiative to lend this great prodigy Mo some money, Just that little bit of work and it's a 200% profit, Brother Mo. You really. I don't know what to say anymore. Miao Xiao Miao laughed bitterly, a look of awkward surprise on her face. Actually, I was wiping my cold sweat just now. Didn't you see me losing at the start? I almost lost everything. But thank God my fortune came back in time. So naturally it was time to shine. I'll let you in on a secret. I actually do not know how to gamble. But the moment my luck comes in, I'll win no matter who I'm playing against. Jun Moxie's words almost made Zhan Qingfeng, who was still in a state of giddiness, faint from anger. When faced with a scoundrel like this, he had no idea how he lost. No matter how he looked at it, this person's techniques had none of the technicalities in it. And every single move screamed beginner. But he won. I put in a large amount of hard work. On usual days, for the sake of training my mental state, I often go to gambling dens. Even if I'm concealing my identity, I still return with my pockets full. My gambling skills may not be at the level of a god of gambling, but it's definitely not that far off. I believe that no one present here today is capable of gambling better than me. But the outcome? Could I really be defeated by someone using luck alone? Side fortune? Is there really such a thing? No matter how Zhan Qingfeng tried to figure it out, the conclusion was that he had lost. And he had lost unexpectedly. And lost a huge sum of 50 million liang. And lost their fourth hope out of the 5 rounds. Right now, the Zhan family couldn't be bothered about whatever huge amount they lost. They had already bet all their hopes on the last round. Xian Beast Fighting. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 973. Who is it that holds victory in his hands? The 5th round. Betting on Xian Beasts. Xian Beast Fighting. Zhan Qingfeng said this through gritted teeth. Right now, Zhan Qingfeng could no longer care about face anymore. This was the last battle that determined all. If he loses, the consequences were not something that even the two of them brothers could bear. How could they? Right now, the only hope was that this Mo Jun Xie didn't know any other debauchee playthings. Even if he did, to not be proficient at it. Because we two brothers really cannot afford to lose. But this Xian beast fighting also required great skills. There were also traces of manipulation within it. Even if they cheated, they must win the victory of this last round. Xian beast fighting? The corner of Jun Moxie's lips twitched, and he almost cackled out loud. What is this brother doing? Even if you are trying to betray your own family, it's not done like this. Ah, you are selling them out completely. God dang it. You are asking me, the king of Tian Fa Forest, and the young master that has the art of unlocking heaven's fortune that makes all Xian beasts drool, to compete with you in Xian beast fighting? How could there be something as ridiculous as this in the world? That's right. We shall compete in beast fighting. Zhan Qingfeng glared at him harshly. Red veins were already appearing in his eyes. The losses from the previous 4 rounds were really too aggrieving. He clearly had victory in his hand just now, but how did the tables get turned around? And I even made a great loss. He even had an unexplainable feeling that no matter what he competed in, it was all within the opponent's expectations. And he was playing right into the opponent's tunes. This was no longer a scheme that he was setting up traps in. Instead, it felt more like he had fallen head first in Monarch Jun Xie's traps. I do not oppose to the idea of fighting that Xian beast thing, but how do we fight with Xian beasts? And I also don't have that Jun Moxie was genuinely confused this time. Young Master Jun was indeed the king in Tian Fa Forest, but he had no clue about Xian beast fighting. I'll get people to deliver Xian beasts later. Relax. We will compete using small and lower-level Xian beasts. If they are high-level, just their vigor alone would be enough to determine the victor. There is no need to compete anymore. Zhan Qingfeng said. As for the Xian beasts that will be competing, they'll be Xian beasts from the beast battling arena. Not personally raised by me. Otherwise, it'll be unfair too. In that case, it should be that we each pick one and have them battle? Jun Moxie asked. That's right. Zhan Qingfeng laughed coldly. Don't blame me for not reminding you. It is a type of knowledge for selecting Xian beasts. If you lose, then you can only blame yourself for your poor judgment. If you win, then it's pure luck. Because the Xian beasts that will be brought here later will be exactly the same size, the same level, and even their hair will be the same. I am really curious to see if Great Prodigy Mo's side fortune will still be that amazing. Whether it is amazing or not, it'll all be revealed later. I want to know, how do we determine victory in this beast fighting? Jun Moxie frowned. After both of us finish choosing our Xian beasts, we will mark both of them with a circle using 2 different colored ink to tell the difference. The winner lives and the loser dies. It'll be obvious. Zhan Qingfeng said. As he explained, he slowly felt more relaxed and was secretly rejoicing. Looks like this Monarch Jun Xie really doesn't know the techniques of beast fighting. Otherwise, how could he not even know such basic rules of the game? Looks like victory is in my hand for this round. Right now, Zhan Qingfeng was indeed a little frightened from the previous 4 rounds of continuous losses, especially the 4th round where the tables were suddenly turned around when he was obviously at a great advantage. He felt a little uneasy facing this seemingly victorious battle. So that is how it is. I understand now. Young Master Jun nodded his head. During this period of time, someone had already rushed off to the beast battling arena to make the necessary arrangements for them to deliver the Xian beasts here. There were so many big shots that were watching. Were they supposed to all make a move to go there and watch? That was a little unreasonable. Besides, with any single young master from any random influential family present here, It was a small task for the owner of that small beast battling arena to obey them. During this period of waiting, Miao Xiao Miao was unable to wait and dragged Jun Moxie aside to explain to him some of the rules and requirements of beast fighting. Although time was tight, having some last-minute preparation was better than none. Zhang Qingfeng watched coldly from the side, pretending to be open-minded, but he was secretly cackling inwardly. Beast fighting was a form of knowledge that requires great technique. Low-level Xian beasts were not too different in their own vigor and strength, but it all depended on the commands of the beast battlers and the contestants' provocation of their desire to fight. These unique techniques were really difficult to master without burning large amount of money as learning fees and spending a long time mastering them. Otherwise, why would it be common to see people losing all hope trying to kill themselves after losing all their wealth outside of beast battling arenas? All these people were senior experts in beast fighting. If they weren't a mid-tier or top expert, they couldn't be so confident in staking all their fortune and life. The main reason why Zhang Qingfeng felt like victory was completely in his grasp was mainly due to an ancient book that was passed down, the Xian Beast Chant. This was one of the unique techniques chants that the first owner of Misty Illusory Manor, the Nine Nether First Young Master's disciple, secretly hid when the Nine Nether First Young Master burnt all of the books and records of other martial art techniques back then. Only until the 8 influential families of the Misty Illusory Manor began to rise did this ancestor bring out these 8 secret manuals for everyone to take their pick in order to increase the capabilities of his descendants and use it as a reference to benefit the rest of the world. Back then, this Xian Beast Chant was one of the most useless books, the weakest form of art. Because it was just another type of mental cultivation and had no use or effect when facing or battling an enemy. But the Zhan family back then was the weakest and smallest family amongst the 8 in the Misty Illusory Manor. They had no other choice but to choose the most worthless book. It was better than nothing. But after a few thousands of years, this made a complete change in their situation. Because they had this Xian Beast Chant technique, the Zhan family was able to become unusually close with the Xian beasts during their cultivation. Although the contents were limited and were only effective on Xian beasts that were level 8 and below, it brought in countless wealth for the Zhan family. And the Zhan family began to rise in Misty Illusory Manor, step by step, with this seemingly worthless Xian Beast Chant manual, to their current glorious and influential position. It must be known that the economy is a dominant factor, regardless of what world. Having money meant that one would be able to do things that most people were incapable of. Things that were unimaginable. The Zhan family was doused in the radiance of wealth. With this sort of divine technique, the Zhan family had the full advantage and dominance in areas concerning Xian beasts in the Misty Illusory Manor. Beast fighting was one big domain. Even if it was a slightly weaker Xian beast, as long as it was trained by the Zhan family, it would be able to win an opponent that was higher than itself by a whole level. And thus, the reason why Zhan Yushu brought this suggestion up was entirely because of this advantage. And this sort of situation was not a huge secret in the Misty Illusory Manor. As the Manor Lord's granddaughter, Miao Xiao Miao naturally knew of it, so she was even more worried. Mo Junyi didn't know this in the first place. And now, the Zhan family had this great advantage. How could there be any chance of winning when going against an opponent this strong? Miao Xiao Miao was extremely troubled because she really did not see any hope of Mo Junyi winning. The battle this time was not the same as the previous rounds. The previous rounds could be said to use his own knowledge and luck to win, but right now, no matter how much side fortune he had, it was useless in the face of his opponent's absolute strength. Miao Xiao Miao let out a deep sigh. Miss Miao, what is wrong? Jun Moxie was listening to her half-heartedly. Hearing her sudden sigh, he couldn't help but subconsciously ask her this. The Zhan family is really despicable. You don't know. Miao Xiao Miao sighed and explained everything. There is no chance of winning for this last round. She frowned and said. It can't be. Could it be that the Zhan family is really this powerful? The same type of Xian beast can turn completely different in their hands? How is this possible? Jun Moxie asked, a little confused. This is true. There are only things that cannot be imagined in the world. But there is absolutely nothing that is impossible. The Zhan family just has this sort of ability. Miao Xiao Miao frowned and looked at him. Hoping to win this round with luck alone. That is completely impossible. The Zhan family suggested this because they want to cut off all your possible luck and defeat you using their own strength. Not necessarily. If it were other things, Jun Moxie might admit defeat, but when it came to Xian beasts. If Jun Moxie said he was second in the world, even the 9 nether first young master may not dare to proclaim himself as first. As to this last round, Jun Moxie was absolutely confident that he would win. What the Zhan family was capable of doing was inciting the emotions of the Xian beasts at the very most. It's not a big deal. This young master is able to make a Xian beast advance to another level in a blink of an eye. Competing with me? What bullshit is the Zhan family? You're a stick for stirring shut at most. Making yourself stinkier as you stir. Let's see if this young master plays you till you're crippled. During the wait, everyone was in deep discussions. Everyone present, including the judges, believed that the Zhan family would definitely win this round. There was absolutely no other possible outcome. The expression of Zhan Qingfeng and his gang also became arrogant again. So what if you are the legendary free and natural physique? So what if you won the previous 4 rounds? As long as you lose this last round, you are still doomed. The winner is king, the loser an outlaw. But who is it that holds victory in his hand? Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 974. This life and eternity. There is no one else. Everyone was sticking their neck out in anticipation. Only Jun Moxie leaned on the chair in a half-sitting, half-lying position as he conversed with Miao Xiao Miao. Miss Miao, don't you find it inconvenient to be wearing this veil? Jun Moxie asked. Inconvenient? No. Why do you ask? Miao Xiao Miao looked at him oddly. I just thought that a veil shouldn't be worn for too long. You see, it is springtime now. Sand and winds are strong. So it does have a beautifying effect on a girl wearing a veil. But you shouldn't be wearing it every day. This is extremely bad for the skin. The spring winds, summer rain, autumn frost, and winter snow are all blessings from the heavens. Even our appearances have to be under the mercy of nature to be able to truly exhibit its beauty. Brother Mo's words do make sense. But the veil, it's a lot to explain. Miao Xiao Miao sighed lightly. Just looking at Miss Miao's expressions is enough to make anyone feel intoxicated. If one day, I am lucky to see the beautiful face under the veil, what sort of great fortune would that be? Jun Moxie rubbed his nose, noticing that the other party did not seem keen on continuing this topic of the veil. He was also just trying to find topics to waste time, so he just replied politely and put an end to it. But the moment his sentence left his mouth, he noticed Miao Xiao Miao shunning his gaze bashfully. Through the layer of white silk, he could distinctly tell Miao Xiao Miao's porcelain skin turn red rapidly, to the point that even her neck was bright red. And some people nearby who had overheard his sentence looked at Jun Moxie as if they had seen a monster. Some young men looked at Jun Moxie as if he had murdered their fathers. As if they were on the verge of pouncing on him to rip him to shreds. What is wrong? Did I say something wrong? Jun Moxie rubbed his head in confusion. I had only paid her a compliment. Is there a need for you guys to be this agitated? Since your arrival in the misty illusory manor, has Brother Mo met any other young ladies? Miao Xiao Miao did not reply to his question. Instead, she asked him back. She still had an embarrassed look in her eyes, but she managed to calm herself. Jun Moxie jolted, instantly remembering. He had always neglected this unusual phenomenon. Since I arrived in misty illusory manor, I don't think I have seen any young lady. It doesn't count if it's in Chao Guofeng's courtyard. But since I came to Heart Fantasy City, I did not see a single one either. If I really have to count, aside from Miao Xiao Miao here, there is only Little Beansprout. What? Did the girls of the misty illusory manor not go shopping on the streets? Those few women I've met on the streets are also old aunties. What's happening? Seeing the confusion in Jun Moxie's eyes, Miao Xiao Miao giggled. Young master does not hail from the misty illusory manor, so it's understandable for you not know the reasons. In the misty illusory manor, we are extremely strict in the segregation of males and females. Girls who have yet to be betrothed are generally not allowed to go out of their homes. Even if it's occasionally, they have to wear veils. Even if they are in their own homes, they have to wear their veils when meeting visitors they are unfamiliar with. In some families that are stricter, girls will have to don a veil after they turn 13. Even their own birth father cannot see her face. Only when she finds a life partner and gets married, the husband removes the veils and they can finally stop wearing it. Young Master Jun was getting awkward, which was extremely rare. He had never expected that a random line he tossed out had directly concerned the privacy and lifelong happiness of women. This is really. In the misty illusory manor, there is a poem that goes like this. A look of daze appeared in Miao Xiao Miao's eyes as she recited slowly. A 16-year-old daughter is beautiful, like a snow-white shawl of worldly affairs. This life and eternity, there is no one else. 3 eternities determined with the glance of her husband. Jun Moxie widened his eyes as his mouth hung open. He only felt like he was a pig head. If she wore a veil, that was her problem. It was her choice. Why must you run your mouth? And of all things, you just have to ask. Now great. You've asked for a huge trouble now. And you're really in trouble now. Young Master Jun naturally understood the meaning of this poem. He was no stranger to this concept. Because there were some ethnic groups in the grasslands that were like this too. It was a little similar to the meaning behind the husband unveiling the bride on their wedding night. Miao Xiao Miao continued to speak softly. In the misty illusory manor, almost all girls hope that the person unveiling their white veil is the one they are attracted to. If that is the case, then it is the most blissful moment of their lives. Otherwise, it will just be the beginning of a nightmare. As she spoke, her eyes were fixed on Jun Moxie's, a look of gentleness and anticipation in them. Not knowing whether for all the girls in misty illusory manor or for herself. Brother Mo. The look in Miao Xiao Miao turned passionate as she looked at young Master Jun bravely. She gritted her teeth and said, if Brother Mo really wishes to see Xiao Miao's real face, then. Jun Moxie's heart skipped a beat, instantly feeling his throat turn dry. Feck. Have I really messed up? Now how should I continue this? Say that I don't want to see it? Even if you kill me, I don't want to look. Then Miss Meow will definitely hate me for life. And be depressed for eternity. And I will be pursued until death by the whole Meow family. The great plans I set up in misty illusory manner with such great difficulty will all be ruined like this. But I say that I want to see it. That doesn't work either. The young lady has intentions. But I don't. Ah. This is not something that works just with one party's intentions alone. And I'm not a beast. Ah. This mouth of mine is really wretched. Ah. Help. Ah. Right now, Meow Xiao Meow's heart was thumping heavily. She didn't know what was the intentions behind Mo Jun Xie's question were. Does he really not know of this custom the misty illusory manner has? Or is he just taking this opportunity to confess his feelings to me? If he really doesn't know, then what should I do? On the other hand, if he really confesses to me along with his victory against the Zhan brothers, if I reject it, will he suffer a huge blow because of this? There are no other chances. Meow Xiao Meow was extremely troubled no matter how she thought about it. She didn't know what she was even thinking about anymore. She only felt that her emotions were in a mess and entangled. And no matter how she tried to straighten it out, it was fruitless. Then, a single thought appeared. This concerns my lifelong happiness in the misty illusory manner. I've met with all the young masters of the 8 influential families in the misty illusory manner. Some of them are not bad, but they are still slightly lacking in feelings. If I'm supposed to entrust my happiness to those people, then I'd rather not marry. And this Mo Jun Xie with the free and natural physique shook the entire misty illusory manner with his arrival. Not only was his potential great, just the talents he exhibited was enough to impress everyone. And his elegance was extremely attractive. And there was this faint, refreshing natural scent on his body, making one feels extremely comfortable from smelling it. Although this person looks ordinary, but I can feel that he is definitely someone worth entrusting my happiness to. If you don't like someone like him, Xiao Miao a Xiao Miao, who else are you going to like? What else are you hoping for? The opportunity is right before your eyes. If you do not grab at it now, it'll be gone. Besides, as I've grown older, the number of marriage proposals at home have been increasing. If not because the matter with the spiritual herbal gardens has yet to have a conclusion, my marriage may already have been decided. If that day comes and any senior at home decides to betroth me to some guy for the benefit of the family, then it'll really be too late for regrets. Might as well take this opportunity and make the decision of my lifelong happiness. If someone at home has already made arrangements, then the best reason to reject it would be because I have someone I'm already interested in. Even if I ultimately cannot be with him, but with such a shocking memory of today, will I still be attracted to any man in this life? I can tell that this Mo Jun Xie is not a bad person. And he risked offending the world to warn me. And right now, and he is at odds with the Zhan family. Chao Guofeng alone is not enough to protect him. The thought of Mo Jun Xie being crushed under the Zhan family's schemes and plots. Meow Xiao Meow felt an unexplainable pain in her heart. This pain made Meow Xiao Meow more affirmed of her choice. Raising her eyes to look at Mo Jun Xie, she was met with the sight of his anxious look and a thin layer of cold sweat on his forehead as he looked at her in a daze, waiting for her respond. As if he were really concerned about her response, but could do nothing about the wait and had an unexplainable desire. To think that this man is so concerned about me. Meow Xiao Meow felt a surge of sweetness appearing in her heart, her face instantly turning red again. It's easy to discover a valuable treasure, but it's rare to find such a lover. Forget it. Forget it. Let's just let this foolish silly head be the one who undoes my veil. Jun Xie did seem to be extremely concerned about what Miao Xiao Miao thought. And although his objective was a lot different from what Miss Miao had imagined, young Master Jun's heart was drumming away. Great Granny, don't leave me hanging like this when you talk. What is it that you are trying to say? What do you mean, ah? I'm really anxious, ah. Don't provoke me anymore, ah. My little heart cannot take on your shocking provocation, ah. I really cannot unveil this veil, ah. I have a lot of vinegar jars at home, ah. If I really remove it, I'll really be doomed when I go back, ah. Especially when Shui Yan is almost comparable with me in strength. If she really wants to torture me, I wouldn't dare fight back, ah. Then my life would really be dark, ah. Please spare me. Pitiful me has never seen how you look, ah. Heaven, ah. Earth, ah. Jesus and Buddha's, ah. Open up your eyes and spare me, please. Young Master Jun was fervently praying away. Miao Xiao Miao finally opened her mouth. She hung her head low as she spoke, but Jun Xie could clearly see it. The neck of this number one beauty of misty illusory manner had completely turned red. Her voice was even softer than the buzzing of a mosquito. Miao Xiao Miao stuttered. If Brother Mo really wishes to see how I look, then you, after you successfully win this bet today, I'll let you see. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 975. The Determining Match. Jun Xie jolted in shock. He licked his lips with the tip of his tongue, only feeling that the insides of his mouth were completely dry. He uttered with great difficulty, what? He was cursing away in anguish mentally. Whatever I fear really comes, ah. Oh my God. What should I do about this? Isn't this going to cost me my life? But in the eyes of Miao Xiao Miao, his actions and expressions looked like an ideal portrayal of extreme excitement. Look at him, becoming unable to speak because of the joy from my response. How eloquent he was when going against Zhang Qingfeng and Zhang Yushu earlier. Raising her head, she rolled her eyes bashfully at him. Miao Xiao Miao quickly turned away, unconsciously drawing circles with the tip of her toe on the ground as she mumbled, "Fool. You are really a fool." What she didn't know was that the moment she said this, young Master Jun had the urge to concede defeat. The impossible task that the Zhan family failed to do after gathering countless manpower and wealth and efforts, Miss Miao almost did with a single line. Young Master Jun seemed to have really turned into a fool right now. His eyes were completely wide open simply because it was too shocking, ah. Could this be the legendary saying, the hardest to digest is the favor of beauties? I've sinned, ah. Right now, young Master Jun really had the urge to cry, but no tears were coming out. I swear, I am really not here to expand my harem. My initial goal is to get some 7-colored holy fruit. Although now I'm a bit greedier and want a rainbow holy tree. But that is all. I really do not have any other intentions. Am I really going to turn poor because of greed, suffering the fruits of my retribution now? Did young Master Jun count as trying to act decent when he picked up a bonus? Just as Miao Xiao Miao fixed her passionate and anticipating gaze on Jun Xie, the point where Jun Xie was practically at a loss as to what to do. His savior finally arrived. Mo Junyi, great prodigy Mo. The Xian beasts for beast fighting has been delivered. How much longer are you planning to drag things out? Zhang Qingfeng's sentence gave Jun Xie the massive urge to hug him tightly and smother him with kisses. The heavens do pity. There is finally someone who can help me out of this situation. Zhan Qingfeng and Zhan Yushu watched this pair, their eyes full of envy. Especially Zhan Qingfeng, the anger in his heart was about to explode from his chest. Miao Xiao Miao was the person he had his eyes on back then. No one else may know how Miao Xiao Miao looked like under her veil. He was the only exception. Of course, first young Master Zhan didn't know how Miao Xiao Miao looked now. But Zhan Qingfeng could clearly remember, 8 years ago, Miao Xiao Miao, who was only 11 years of age, was already a dazzling and mesmerizing beauty. Miao Xiao Miao back then was already breathtaking. Although she was still young and tender, but Zhan Qingfeng absolutely believed that there was no other girl in the whole of the misty illusory manor who could be more beautiful than Miao Xiao Miao. Even the news of Miao Xiao Miao as the #1 beauty of misty illusory manor was spread by Zhan Qingfeng back then. Right now, Miao Xiao Miao was already a grown woman. Just from that crystal clear pair of eyes alone, she was devastatingly beautiful. The reason why Miao Xiao Miao was listed as the third person who must not be offended in the misty illusory manor was not entirely because of her background of the Miao family. The real reason was that, the moment someone offended her, it was no big deal for kind Miss Miao herself. But all her pursuers were capable of making life worse than death for those who offend her. Even the person's family would be completely devoured by them. How common could the princess of misty illusory manor be? This sort of incomparable beauty. How could she offer herself to someone else before my eyes? No way. Absolutely no way. Although Zhan Qingfeng already had plenty of wives and concubines and even had children, this did not hinder his ambitions towards Miao Xiao Miao and his subtle pursuit. It could even be said that before today, all his attempts had been rather successful. Besides, the Miao family may be significant in the misty illusory manor, but they were already showing signs of weakening. If the Zhan family wished to replace them, with the current situation, it was not entirely impossible. When that time came, wouldn't Miao Xiao Miao have to allow him to do whatever he pleased? Zhan Qingfeng's jealously burnt in his heart. The moment he heard the carriage outside arrive, he instantly interrupted the conversation between Jun Moxie and Miao Xiao Miao. Although this was rude, right now, he could no longer care. He already viewed Miao Xiao Miao as his property. If anyone attempted to lay hands on her, it made them an enemy that potentially would make him a cuckold. His younger brother Zhan Yushu was one, and Mo Junyi was another. There was only one way to deal with such enemies. Eradicate them. At least, all possible developments with Miao Xiao Miao were to be completely cut off. Oh. To think that it arrived so soon. First young Master Zhan's underlings are sure efficient. Jun Moxie turned around with extreme cooperation. His face instantly became more relaxed. Right now, a voice came from the door of the hall. First young master, the people from the beast battling arena have arrived. Do we allow them to come in right now? Everyone has gotten sick from waiting. Hurry up and get them in here. Zhan Qingfeng yelled, frowning. The suppressed anger in his heart had pushed this first young Master Zhan, who didn't ever falter, on the verge of exploding. How could he still be bothered about maintaining his elegance? With a series of noisy clamor, a few carriages entered Drifting Fragrance Lodge. One fat middle-aged man bowed respectfully before Zhan Qingfeng with a smile. Young Master Zhan. Hee. As I do not know which Xian beast you require, I brought 5 or 6 of each type of level 3 or 4 Xian beasts. I hope it'll please you. Well done. But I do not require that many. Leaving all the level 4 cat-bodied tigers will do. A glint appeared across Zhang Qingfeng's eyes as he instructed. Cat-bodied tiger? Jun Moxie frowned. He had spent quite some time in Tianfa, but he had never heard of the type of Xian beast called cat-bodied tiger. Could it be a unique breed that belonged only to the misty illusory manor? Brother Mo came into the misty illusory manor from the outside world. Perhaps you do not know about the cat-bodied tiger. Let me explain it to Brother Mo, so you have a rough idea of this type of Xian beast. Zhang Qingfeng continued with a smile. The cat-bodied tiger is an extremely adorable-looking animal. It is a unique Xian beast in the misty illusory manor. Its body size is comparable to that of an ordinary cat's, but it's combined with the bloodthirsty, savage, and territorial characteristics of a tiger. Although it can only attain level 4, it is highly competitive compared to average Xian beasts. Like a level 4 green fur tiger trapped by its circumstances. I see. Thank you, young Master Zhan, for your guidance. Jun Moxie nodded his head. I don't care what cat-bodied tiger or dog-bodied tiger you are. Any Xian beast is the same in the hands of this young master. With Zhang Qingfeng's command, a few burly men from the beast battling arena came in carrying a small cage. They placed it right in the center. There were 6 small cages that were brought in, a cat-like creature with a gorgeous coat of fur in each one of them. The moment they were placed together, these little animals who were lazing within their metal cages instantly sensed the existence of their kind, and all their hair began to stand. They stood up and arched their backs, an unusually cruel glint shooting from their eyes, and they bared their sharp teeth and howled to show their might. They were crouching on their hind legs, as if they were ready to pounce at any moment to attack anyone that dared to enter their territory. Each of these cat-bodied tigers were probably 10+ gene in weight. But on their foreheads, there was a distinct and clear circle patch of fur with the word king written on it. Although it had a tiny build, its air of a king was imposing. As expected of the most ferocious level 4 Xian beast. Truly lives up to its name. Jun Moxie was genuinely surprised. For the sake of fairness, Brother Mo, please go first to take your pick. Zhang Qingfeng offered generously. The fighting strength of these cat-bodied tiger were more or less the same. It made no difference who made the first pick. But the crux of the matter was that no matter which one Zhang Qingfeng selected, after he infuses his special Xian beast chant techniques into it, the strength of the one he had selected would multiply by 2 folds. The cat-bodied tiger that was infused with unique Xian Qi would be brought up from a level 4 to a level 5. The difference in one level was a wide gap that was impossible to overcome. This was the reason why Zhang Qingfeng and the entire Zhan family never lost in beast fighting in the misty illusory manor. Since Brother Zhan has so kindly offered, then I shall accept. Jun Moxie smiled and slowly walked over. The 6 cat-bodied tigers began to growl upon sensing someone approaching. As if they were warning the person not to come any closer. If they attempt to, they'd have to pay the price for it with their blood. In fact, the cat-bodied tigers were extremely competitive. An existence with Xian Qi as pathetic as great prodigy Mo. These creatures couldn't even be bothered about it. Zhang Qingfeng pretended to be generous to allow Mo Junyi to take his pick first only because he wanted to see a joke. If Mo Junyi was accidentally bitten or scratched by a cat-bodied tiger, it'd be such a joy. It's a pity that Jun Moxie did not feel frightened by the threats from these cat-bodied tiger. He simply selected the one that was closest to himself. He took a glance at it. I'll take this one. I think this one is pretty cute. Beast fighting can't be too far from cock or dog fighting. Since their strength is about the same, then it's up to our own luck. I still choose to believe in my own gut feelings. My side fortune is extremely prosperous right now. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 976. Cat-bodied tiger. The crowd was in an uproar. How was Xian beast fighting? Not much different from a cockfight or a dog fight. The difference was huge. And what do you mean by the strengths are roughly the same? And the only difference is in luck? That's just nonsense. Everyone here was an experienced player. With a single look, it was obvious that this great prodigy MO had simply picked one based on intuition. Furthermore, this cat-bodied tiger was the smallest among the six. And its weight was even lighter than the others by a gene, probably even more. One gene might not make much of a difference with other Xian beasts. But to a cat-bodied tiger which only reached around 10 plus gene in weight at full maturity, one gene of difference was a huge deal. Was this young Master MO not keen on winning anymore? Miss Meow clearly told him all the necessary information just now. And this was actually the most rudimentary thing to take note of. There was no way he didn't know this. Of course, those in the know were all aware of the Zhan family's hidden cards. Even if Mo Junyi chose the brightest, fittest, and most nimble cat-bodied tiger among them, it would still be useless against the Zhan family's secret technique. Young Master Mo is indeed straightforward. In that case, I will not be picky as well. We'll take the one closest to me then. Zhan Qingfeng smiled suavely and said in a nonchalant manner. It was fine for those who didn't know, but when the rest heard his words, they all rolled their eyes and scoffed. Is there still a need for you to choose? You're practically holding the most invincible cheating machine. No matter which one you choose, the result is the same. Following that, it was time for both sides to familiarize themselves with their cat-bodied tiger. Zhan Qingfeng took out a piece of black cloth and pitched a small tent. After that, he directly grabbed his cat-bodied tiger and threw it in. Then, he stretched a hand into the tent. In a short moment, the enraged growls of the cat-bodied tiger disappeared, turning slowly into meows of satisfaction. As for young Master Jun, his actions were even more ridiculous. Under the shocked eyes of the crowd, young Master Jun smiled lightly and opened the door of the cage without protecting his body with the slightest bit of Xian qi. The crowd was completely stunned, speechless. One must know that the claws and teeth of the cat-bodied tiger were all lethal weapons. If people with low Xian qi approached it without making any preparations, they would be bitten by it. Even losing an entire hand was not impossible. First, young Master Zhan's plan was exactly to bully Mo Junyi, taking advantage of his low cultivation and inability to handle the cat-bodied tiger at will. If one's strength was too weak, how would he tame the Xian beast? But unexpectedly, this free and natural physique fellow had directly thrown the door of the cage open. Does he really not care? Or is he just ignorant? But the following situation was even more shocking. That cat-bodied tiger raised its head, looking at the youngster before it with a suspicious gaze. Stretching its waist lazily, it jumped out with a soft meow. Then, like a common house cat, it strutted over to Jun Moxie's side and rubbed its head against his calf in an affectionate manner. After that, it rolled around and exposed its fluffy white belly to him while sticking its little pink tongue out in a cute manner. My God, what is going on? Someone in the crowd stammered with disbelief. His mouth was open so wide as if he wanted to swallow this cat-bodied tiger whole. There were several long scars on this person's hand, evident of his interactions with cat-bodied tigers, and because of his experience with them. He was even more shocked. Everyone knew that the bellies of animals were usually their weakest spots. When animals show their underbellies to humans or other animals, it meant that they completely trusted and submitted to that person. A Xian beast like the cat-bodied tiger, which was aggressive by nature, was usually quite hostile to unfamiliar people. No matter to who, they practically never gave their trust to others. Full-grown cat-bodied tigers would not show their underbellies to even their biological parents. But before this guy with the free and natural physique, it was actually so relaxed. Could it be that this legendary physique also has a unique ability that would cause Xian beasts to like them? The entire crowd was completely stupefied. At this time, Jun Moxie smiled warmly and stooped down to scratch its belly. "Little fellow, come here and let me take a good look at you." As he said that, he scooped this dangerous creature up into his arms and stroked its back. His actions were gentle and light. This cat-bodied tiger meowed cutely a few times, and closed its eyes as it nestled into Jun Moxie's chest. As he stroked its fur, it even purred lightly in enjoyment. Dear heavens! Ah, I must be dreaming. Is that really a cat-bodied tiger? The person with the scars on his hand exclaimed with shock. Feck! It can't be just a regular cat, right? Meow Xiao Meow's eyes were opened wide, completely unable to understand the situation at all. Her eyesight was far better than that scarred youth's. From the moment it appeared, she could already tell the difference between the cat-bodied tiger and a regular cat. The purring little ball of fluff in Jun Moxie's arms right now was clearly a legitimate cat-bodied tiger. But as for why it was behaving so strangely, being obedient and trusting towards a human was something that she couldn't wrap her head around. After all, her knowledge on the matter was not much greater than others. In their shock, everyone had failed to notice that those snarling cat-bodied tigers in the other cages had also all turned quiet. Every single eye was fixed on the cat-bodied tiger in Jun Moxie's arms. If they could observe clearly, they would be able to see that in those cat-bodied tigers' eyes, there wasn't any hostility or annoyance. Instead, there was only admiration and jealousy. Yes, they were feeling jealous that the other cat-bodied tiger was able to be cradled in the arms of that human. What a blissful thing that is! Ah, why don't such great things happen to me? Jun Moxie smiled lightly as he secretly drew in a strand of heaven-earth spiritual qi. As he massaged the cat-bodied tiger gently, he slowly infused the energy into its body. Sensing the energy, the little cat-bodied tiger meowed in surprise and raised its head, its ears twitching cutely with delight. It could clearly feel that the energy inside its body was growing rapidly. In an instant, it had already broken through the maximum threshold of its body. To think that breaking through was actually such a simple thing. From the day of its birth until now, it was originally destined to be unable to break through that barrier. But now, it had actually been done with such ease, and in the blink of an eye. This person, which made it feel exceptionally comfortable the moment it saw him, was actually so powerful. That aura on his body was also so dreamy and desirable. Jun Moxie smiled gently, continuing to maintain the energy flow. He even had the leisure to look over at Zhang Qingfeng, who was not far away, seemingly trying to see how the latter was taming his Xian beast. That innocent expression on his face was like an ordinary youth who was simply standing with a cat in his arms, smiling dumbly. But no one would have thought that right under the noses of everyone, he'd already executed the greatest cheat. How should one describe a cheating method that was even more exaggerated than the invincible cheat? The little cat in young Master Jun's arms finally moved. Stretching its body, it opened its eyes wide and meowed at the heavens. Meow meow, meow meow. It cried out continuously, and its voice grew brighter and brighter with each meow. As its voice rang out, The other 4 cat-bodied tigers in the cages started shivering and lowered their heads as they prostrated their bodies. Their eyes welled up pitifully as they looked at Jun Xie. At the same time, the looks of admiration and jealousy in their eyes had become even more pronounced, with the addition of deep, heartfelt fear. With a cute roar, the cat-bodied tiger jumped off from young Master Jun's arms and landed lightly on the ground. As it turned around to look at Jun Xie, it meowed gently with a look of reluctance and gratefulness. The cat-bodied tiger's base physique was too weak and could not hold much heaven-earth spiritual chi. Jun Xie had only given it a mere wisp in total, but that mere wisp was already enough. Even Jun Xie would not have thought that the heaven-earth spiritual chi he'd given it was actually primal chaos purple chi refined by the Hongjun Pagoda. So in other words, the energy he'd infused into this cat-bodied tiger's body was primal chaos purple chi. Primal chaos purple chi could be said to be a peerless heavenly treasure that was exceedingly hard to obtain. For all beings in the world who cultivate chi, regardless of humans or xian beasts, this was something that one could only hope for in their dreams. Although it was just a mere wisp, it was already enough to guarantee the results of this battle. With this wisp of primal chaos purple chi in its body, even though this cat-bodied tiger was still a 4th level xian beast, even a 5th level, or 6th level xian beast would not be its match at all. Furthermore, this wisp of primal chaos purple chi would forever remain in the body of this cat-bodied tiger. That meant that it had been given the chance to evolve endlessly in the future. If any Tianfa Beast King or human Saint Emperor saw how young Master Jun was abusing such a precious heavenly treasure on a mere 4th level xian beast, it was likely that even they would feel exceedingly jealous of this cat-bodied tiger xian beast. Even Jun Xie would not have imagined that this action that he'd done on a whim today would have created a peerless emperor among xian beasts several thousands later that would accompany its owner to once again stir up a storm of blood and carnage in the world. Of course, that is an interesting story for another book. From the time that the cat-bodied tiger jumped off from Jun Xie's embrace, deep royal purple lines appeared under its gorgeous multicolored fur, causing it to look much more dignified and mysterious. Little fellow, you don't have a name yet, do you? Jun Xie chuckled and asked, as if he were speaking to a human. Since we can be counted to have some fate, I'll just gift you a name then. From today onwards, you'll be called Little Purple. What do you think? The little cat-bodied tiger pricked its ears and looked at Jun Xie as though it could understand him. After that, it nodded its little head and meowed happily, capering around and jumping through the air as though it was celebrating that it finally had a name. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 977. Bizarre Phenomenon. Jun Xie naturally knew that after it received the primal chaos purple chi from his body, it would naturally be able to understand his words. This was a magical kind of spiritual connection birthed from the primal chaos purple chi. But for everyone else who was looking at this extreme strange scene, they were all stunned speechless. Could it be that this free and natural physique Mo Junyi really had endless secrets on his body? Or perhaps the god of luck was really looking after him every single second? Would this impossible match also be turned around by him once again? A strange look flashed across Miao Xiao Miao's enchanting eyes at this moment. Previously, she'd gone to such great efforts to help this Mo Junyi only because she did not want this free and natural physique prodigy to end up being controlled by the Zhan family, turning into an enemy who was difficult for them to deal with. Secondly, she appreciated his talent. But now, after she'd made the greatest decision in her heart, she felt that every action and word of this Mo Junyi was indeed very pleasing to her eyes. My choice is definitely not wrong. Meow Xiao Meow said in her heart with determination. The face behind the veil had become even more resolute. Little Purple Ah. I'm counting on you for this match Ah. You must gain some face for me. All right? I'm sure you understand. Jun Moxie said with a smile. Little Purple raised its tail and swished it back and forth once as it looked over at Zhan Qingfeng with a glint in its eyes. Raising its head, it meowed arrogantly a few times, as if in disdain. If Jun Moxie could understand it, he would know that Little Purple was saying, "This cat is now the king among cat-bodied tigers. To compete against that kind of small character is truly somewhat below me. In any case, just to repay you, I will give that little fellow over there a good thrashing then. There's no helping it ah. I'll have to cheapen myself this time." At this time, Zhan Qingfeng seemed to have already finished with his cat-bodied tiger as well. His handsome face was lined with sweat, and he looked exhausted. However, there was an excited look of joy in his eyes. As he looked over at Jun Moxie, that gaze turned into a cruel sneer. This time, the process had gone too smoothly. In the past, when he used that technique, there would always be some resistance from the Xian beast. At the very least, it wouldn't be able to integrate so perfectly, and the entire process would usually use up about half of his strength. But this time, it wasn't clear what was happening with this cat-bodied tiger. After it was placed under the black cloth, it suddenly cooperated and became unusually quiet. Even if the process was more painful, it didn't cry out at all. Thus, it was much easier than expected this time, and the effect was even more shocking. At the very least, 90% of his spirit energy had been infused successfully into this cat-bodied tiger. Such a success rate was very rare even among the entire Zhan family. For such a ridiculously lucky thing to happen right before the main battle, Zhan Qingfeng was naturally filled with great excitement. Even the heavens are helping me. But what he didn't know was that the reason his cat-bodied tiger had cooperated so well was because after Jun Moxie's cat-bodied tiger had finished merging with the primal chaos purple chi, it had instantly released an aura of a king. Humans might not be able to detect this kind of unique aura, but as a being of the same species, it could definitely sense the aura clearly. Under that intimidating aura, it didn't even dare to move, let alone make any sounds. As such, Zhan Qingfeng's spirit energy was infused more easily. Such a matter had only happened this once in all of the misty illusory manor's long history. Thus, it was also quite normal for Zhan Qingfeng to be proud of himself. The only thing was that the cat-bodied tiger under him was incredibly restless. The reason for this was even more simple. Heavens ah! That newly born king is actually my opponent in this death match. Dear heavens ah! Great earth ah! Just kill me now. This bunch of Zhan family bastards. How immoral of them, of so many cats. Why did they choose me? To let an ordinary cat-bodied tiger fight its king, how is this different from telling a commoner of your misty illusory manor to fight with the manor lord? There isn't any possibility of survival ah. This wasn't even a battle ah. Big brother, please let me off. Since ancient times till now, no cat has been played with like this before. Brother Mo, from the looks of it, you've already finished preparing. Zhan Qingfeng laughed confidently and looked at Jun Moxie in a provocative manner. Finished preparing? There's still a need to prepare? Jun Moxie said in a stunned manner. It's just a cat, not a person. We're just letting them fight, right? What's there to prepare? Ha 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 ha. Zhan Qingfeng could no longer endure, and he clutched his stomach and roared madly with laughter. Looking at him with a gaze like a cat toying with a mouse, he said with a sneer. Since that's the case, shall we begin? Sure. We can begin at any time. Jun Moxie nodded stiffly. Where's your cat-bodied tiger, eh? At this time, Zhan Qingfeng finally discovered the colorful little creature in front of Jun Moxie that was leaping about happily, rolling and rubbing its furry little face against the latter's leg while purring adoringly. In that moment, Zhan Qingfeng's eyeballs nearly dropped out of his head. This little playful fellow was simply like a tame house cat. Is it still the aggressive and temperamental cat-bodied tiger that hates humans? How did Mo Jun Xie do it? What did he do? Just what was going on? Zhan Qingfeng did not have the time to ponder the mystery because Jun Moxie had started to speak. Little Purple, do you see that? Those 5, 6 fellows over there are the people I'm competing against this time. Your opponent is the cat-bodied tiger he picked out. Do your best, okay? Don't let me down. As young Master Mo's words came out, Little Purple turned around proudly and swept its eyes over Zhan Qingfeng. After that, it leapt over cutely, raised its perky little bottom and with a whoosh sound, a bout of smelly yellow gas burst out. It had actually run over just to release a fart. After doing that, Little Purple meowed happily a few times and dashed back to Jun Moxie like a puff of smoke, running around him excitedly as though it had come back after a successful mission and was awaiting its master's praise. Feck! Get farther away from me, you little thing. Why are you so uncultured? To actually release such a toxic fart in public? Look at what you've done to first young Master Zhan. And you're actually still so proud of it. Jun Moxie wrinkled his nose and scolded. Although it's said that farts are just gas from the belly, and it's unreasonable to ask a person not to fart, but couldn't you have given a warning first? The one farting feels glad and relieved, while the one who smells the fart is distressed and repulsed. Go, go, go. Don't stick so close to my pants after farting, in case the smell sticks to me. Little Purple meowed twice, raising its little paws and waving them in the air as if it were trying to gesture something. After that, it turned and looked at Zhan Qingfeng again, licked its B*TT and meowed again in a wronged voice. It seemed to be saying, that fellow is your opponent. Ah. I was helping you by teasing him. And you're turning around to scold me? How can you be so unreasonable? The crowd was stunned with disbelief for a few seconds, and the hall suddenly erupted with laughter. Meow Xiao Meow covered her mouth with her hands, and her round eyes narrowed into crescent shapes. The look on first young Master Zhan's face right now was simply too funny. Zhan Qingfeng's mouth was wide open, and his eyes were open with disbelief as his thoughts completely froze. Who would have thought that a cat-bodied tiger could actually behave in such a human-like manner? No. This was even more human-like than a human. Was this still a cat-bodied tiger? Besides, the thing that this little fellow released was a little too smelly, wasn't it? First young Master Zhan's mouth hung wide open for a long time, and finally, as if realizing that the puff of yellow gas had already traveled to his stomach, he finally woke up. This smell was simply too disgusting, and he felt as if his 5 viscera and 6 bowels were all stained by that smell. Pooey pooey pooey, pooey pooey, oh you. Young Master Zhan retched for a long time, feeling as if his stomach had been overturned. Is this a cat-bodied tiger or a skunk? This is simply too ridiculous. This was the first time Zhan Qingfeng felt an ominous feeling towards this Xian beast battle. The bizarre phenomena around this opponent of his were simply too ridiculously many, far surpassing the expectations of everyone present. Can we begin now? First young Master Zhan? Jun Moxie asked with some impatience. Begin. Zhan Qingfeng gritted his teeth and looked fearsomely at that little fellow, finally giving the order. Receiving a bush from a person at the side, he dabbed a round circle on Little Purple's head. A black-colored circle. As for the cat-bodied tiger on Zhan Qingfeng's side, a little white circle was drawn on its forehead. From the way Jun Moxie saw it, it was as if a white flag had been drawn on the pitiful fellow's head. Before Jun Moxie had the time to give any instructions, the little fellow below him had already rushed out and arrived at the center of the arena. Raising its head, it roared majestically in a clear and loud voice. After that, it strutted and catwalked around the arena in a proud and exaggerated manner, like a king surveying its own territory. In contrast, that cat-bodied tiger that embodied all of Zhan Qingfeng's effort, and acknowledged by Zhan Qingfeng as the most successfully transformed cat-bodied tiger in the entirety of the Zhan family's history, looked much more restrained. Not only was it shrinking back constantly, not daring to tread forward, it would retreat 2 steps for every 1 step, constantly turning back to look at Zhan Qingfeng. At the same time, it kept shivering in a corner. Meow meow, it cried out in an extremely pitiful manner. I beg you to be kind and don't send me up. Going up there is simply seeking abuse. You're making things too difficult for this cat. The two of us are not even on the same level. Please stop kidding around. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 978. A Suspenseless Victory. Zhan Qingfeng felt a ball of fire rise through his chest as he cursed, wondering why these 2 cat-bodied tigers, which were previously both fierce and ready to fight each other, had suddenly become like this. Today is simply too strange. But if you don't go up there, where would I put my face? And shall I win? And so young Master Zhan growled with rage and grabbed the cat-bodied tiger, throwing it into the arena. At the same time, he commanded fiercely, "Bite it to death for me. Claw it to death." If the cat-bodied tiger could understand his words, it would likely wail loudly on the spot. "Granddaddy, please don't mess around. Are you sure you're not joking?" With a heavy pu sound, the cat-bodied tiger finally landed on the ground. The moment it raised its head, it saw the king of the cat-bodied tigers, Little Purple. A pair of icy cold eyes stared emotionlessly at it. Its mind revolving quickly, this cat-bodied tiger hurriedly bowed lowly, and with a weak meow, it raised its paws and gestured frantically in the air, meowing anxiously. At this time, all the other cat-bodied tigers in the cages were lying down comfortably and sneering as they watched the show. All of them looked at this fellow with pitiful glances, as if they were saying the same thing. "Retard. Meeting our king on the battle arena, and you think you can act pitiful and explain your way out? Your cat head must be crazy. You can only blame this on your luck being too bad, kid. Accept your fate." Greatly surpassing the expectations of everyone, these 2 cat-bodied tigers actually did not begin tearing at each other's throats the moment they met in the arena. Instead, were meowing at each other, seemingly talking. What the hell is wrong with these 2? Could it be 2 long-lost brothers had finally reunited with each other? Otherwise, how would this be explained? Beast fighting competitions generally only picked males to fight each other. In order to avoid the awkward scene of these Xian beasts falling in love with each other. In that moment, everyone felt as if they were in a dream as they watched the 2 cat-bodied tigers' ridiculous actions. "Boss, woo-woo. I was being forced. Really?" The cat-bodied tiger with the white paint on its head cried pathetically. "There's no need to explain. I understand." A deep kingly aura surged out of Little Purple. "Woo-woo. Boss. What should I do then? Tell me your instructions. I'll definitely fulfill it. I don't have a solution either. At this point, we have to determine a victor. Woo, how can this little one possibly dare to determine a victor against boss? Look, even my tail has been scared limp. Besides, fighting against boss isn't called determining a victor. It's just being abused by boss. Your words do make sense. But there's truly no helping it. Ah. Woo woo. I feel so wronged. So pitiful, that bastard of the Jean family. What kind of stupid idea is this? Feck his grandmother, how immoral. No shut. That entire family is full of bastards and retards. This is a commonly known fact among the entire Xian beast world. Woo woo woo. Feck. Are you going to fight or not? If you're not going to attack, I'll attack now. Woo woo woo. I'm attacking. I'm really attacking. Woo. Feck. Let's start. This is the first match that I'm fighting on behalf of Master. I must win at all costs. Kid. Just accept your fate. Who asked you to be chosen by that retard? Woo, woo woo woo. Stop crying. What are you crying for? Even if you ruptured your eyes crying, it's still useless. Let's just fight. Perhaps I might consider going easier on you. Boss, you must show a little mercy, okay? Please don't beat me to death. I'll try my best. This newly acquired strength is somewhat difficult to control. Oh my God. Save me. Ah. Boss. You must try your best to control your strength. Ah. Why is my life so bitter? After much anticipation by the crowd, the two cat-bodied tigers finally seemed to have reached the end of their discussion. The two stood like a pair of peak martial experts about to start a showdown of strength. They looked seriously at each other and slowly moved their legs, preparing their stance. Then, the two cats circled each other slowly. This is too gracious, isn't it? This is truly the most bizarre thing I've seen today. One of the spectating young masters exclaimed with shock. This person's eyeballs were practically popping out of his sockets as he pointed at the arena. His face flushed with disbelief. Meow, Little Purple leapt up and morphed into a streak of light. I'm coming. I'm really attacking now. Meow, a pathetic voice rang out. Woo woo woo, my dearest boss. I have a hard life. You really absolutely certainly must try to control your strength well. Under the excited eyes of the crowd, the two tumbled together in an intense catfight. Both wrestling back and forth, neither giving way to the other. Such a scene was naturally a result of Little Purple going easy on its opponent. Otherwise, if it wanted to, it could have ended the fight in an instant. The battle grew more and more intense, and patches of fur flew everywhere in the sky. Finally, Ong! A loud roar rang out as Little Purple pounced forward, its two sharp claws gleaming fearsomely. Aong! Meow meow! The other cat-bodied tiger also roared hesitantly, quickly meowing a few times to remind Little Purple, Boss. You must remember our promise. Remember to spare my life. Following that, the match was swiftly decided. Little Purple was completely unhurt as it crawled over its opponent's body and trotted around the arena in a prideful and kingly manner. Little Purple was quite magnanimous, leaving its opponent with its life intact. The other cat-bodied tiger laid on the ground shivering continuously, its entire body filled with wounds and scratches. Its fresh blood dyed a patch of the ground red, and this was because Little Purple had reigned in its strength and gone light on it. Although its external wounds looked gory and unsightly, Its bones and internal organs were not hurt at all. But with a single look, it was obvious that this cat-bodied tiger had already been defeated, and it did not have the ability to fight anymore. The victor had been determined, and the black paint on Little Purple's head clearly indicated Jun Moxie's victory. Zhan Qingfeng's face had become the color of dead ash. Finished. Everything is finished. This challenge has come to an official end. Young Master Mo Junyi has 5 consecutive wins, emerging the ultimate winner. Zhan family has 0 victories and is declared the loser. Following that, Miao Xiao Miao's bright voice rang out as she announced the result. In the other and opposite, the 2 Zhan family elders both sighed at the same time as they shook and lowered their heads. With the results being so clear, even a deity would not be able to turn black into white. Senior, this result, this. One of the old men said warily. The other old man still had his eyes closed, not saying anything for a long time. Finally, he sighed. The results of this competition can truly be said to have greatly exceeded our expectations. But this proves one thing. That free and natural physique kid is definitely far from being a simple character than what we had initially imagined. Normally, even if a person had greater talent, it's impossible to know and be proficient in this many things. Especially that last match. There must definitely be something fishy with that cat-bodied tiger. Indeed, how can a common cat-bodied tiger suddenly develop such a high intellect in such a short time? Furthermore, it had clearly been sent over just a moment ago by the beast battling arena. There's no possibility of it being raised domestically, this. As the old man spoke to hear, he sucked in a deep breath of air. 2 cold gleams of light shone out from the other old man's eyes. Are you suspecting that the people of the beast battling arena dealt privately with him? That is not an impossible matter. Send down my instructions. Conduct a full investigation on the people at the beast battling arena. If there's anyone suspicious, there's no need to inform anybody. Directly get rid of them. Yes. Besides that, help me get that cat-bodied tiger and bring it to me. This old man wants to see just what's so special about it. Yes. And there's also this Mo Junyi. Previously, we only knew that Chao Guofeng had brought back a successor with the free and natural physique, who is most definitely a peerless talent of cultivation. But now, it doesn't seem that simple. After today's competition, it's obvious that this Mo Junyi is extremely dangerous. The old man furrowed his brows and pondered for a moment, as if wrestling with some thoughts in his mind. This person is calm and steadfast, with clear thought processes. His ability to turn situations around is also unrivaled. Moreover, he has a bold temperament, with ruthless methods. No matter which of the 5 matches it was, even though he had absolute confidence of victory, he was still able to force Qing Feng and Yu Shu into a corner before showing his skills. That way, the 2 brothers completely lost any chances of overturning the situation, such decisive and ruthless methods and such deep schemes. Also, this person is well versed in music, poetry, calligraphy, painting, and literature. Even his chess skills are enough to contend against national-level experts. Even things like gambling and other debaucherous skills come extremely naturally to him. Such a person, no matter where he is, will certainly have great fame in a short time wherever he goes. His achievements are like a radiant legend. Even in our misty illusory manner, an illustrious character like this will certainly not be a complete unknown person, even if he didn't possess a single shred of Xian Qi. But how come all the reports sound like this person does not even have a past? This is quite clearly a huge point of suspicion. Senior's meaning is Immediately send some people out of the misty illusory manor to investigate thoroughly. As long as it's anything that has to do with this Mo Jun Xie. Even if it's a person or an object. Investigate clearly for me. I want to see just what kind of a person this Mo Jun Xie is. Yes, in that case. 5 days may not be enough. The old man said tentatively. 5 days? Why are you concerned about that? Did I give you a time limit? It's just that 5 days later is the day to officially enter the spiritual herbal gardens. According to the bet, our Zhan family has to get him a slot if we lose the bet. Could it be, we're really not giving him the slot? Idiot. Of course we must give it to him. If not, can you delay the matter away? This is a blood oath written by our own descendants. Do you dare to go back on a vow of that kind? I understand. Besides, this Mo Jun Xie has the legendary free and natural physique. If he truly has nefarious intentions for entering our misty illusory manor, what will those intentions be? What if it's the spiritual herbal gardens? If that's the case, allowing him to enter the spiritual herbal gardens will instead be the best time for us to expose him. Don't forget, all schemes and tricks are useless. Old ancestor is indeed far-sighted. As for today's matter, just let it be. This old man will return first. As for Qing Feng and Yushu, tell them that this time is just a small lesson for them and also an important experience that they need to learn from. This is a mistake of the family's planning and cannot be blamed on them. This incident can also be a great help to their growth in the future. Yes. A gentle breeze blew through the room, and the windows shook lightly for a moment. In that short moment, the white-haired old man had already disappeared without a trace. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 979. Making a scene. Demanding payment. As expected of the old ancestor. Coming and going without a trace. Truly magical. The other old man sighed with admiration as he slowly made his way down the stairs. In a dark corner behind Drifting Fragrance Lodge, a bunch of oilcloths rustled lightly as an aged face appeared from the side. At this time, the old man's eyes were filled with endless doubt. What is the motive of the Zhan family for doing all this? Also, why did that undying old thing of the Zhan family come out here today to witness this meaningless competition? What are they trying to do? Beside that kid with the free and natural physique is quite interesting. What are the intentions of this Mo Jun Xie? This old man had lived for so long thinking that I'm very clever. But to think that I'm actually stumped twice in one day? There must be something huge behind all this. I'd better report everything back to the family immediately. Xiao Miao has obviously fallen for that Mo Jun Xie as well. How should this matter be resolved? As for this Mo Jun Xie, will he be aid or disaster for our Miao family? How troubling. After saying that, this person also rose into the air and disappeared without a trace. Far away, a streak of light could be seen flashing into the distance towards the Miao family. Inside Drifting Fragrance Lodge, Jun Moxie's ears twitched lightly and a faint smile appeared on his face. Zhan Yushu and Zhan Qing Feng stood dumbly on the spot, looking at the cat-bodied tiger showing off and strutting around arrogantly. All of their hearts had turned the color of gray ash. Everything had ended just like that. But that was the detailed plan that we'd carefully crafted out to thoroughly deal with the free and natural physique, as well as to secure the future of our Zhan family. Behind this, there were supposed to be many more plots to follow today's event. We'd started preparing right from the day that this free and natural physique guy appeared in the misty illusory manor. We'd prepared for so long and even used the entire power of the family to set it up. And in the end, everything has been defeated by the hands of a country bumpkin? And we even had to suffer the schemes of the other? I say, what are you two brothers standing there stupidly for? Isn't it time for you to fulfill your prearranged conditions? Jun Moxie cocked his head and said, I seem to remember that the first condition is that your Zhan family promised to obtain a slot for me to enter the spiritual herbal gardens. Surely you won't go back on your words for this, right? Since we dared to bet, we're naturally ready to admit the loss. You can rest assured. No matter what, our Zhan family will definitely get the slot for you. Zhan Qingfeng's brows were lined with sweat, but there was no way for him to back out now. Good. Straightforward indeed. In that case, I'll just wait to enter the spiritual herbal gardens 5 days from now. Take note also to not forget about Miss Miao's entry slot. Jun Moxie wagged a finger and said with an arrogant smirk. The third condition was that I can raise a request your Zhan family cannot refuse. Of course, I do not intend to claim that one now, so we can leave it aside for the time being. Hearing this, Zhan Qingfeng and Zhan Yushu not only did not let loose a sigh of relief, but they became even more tense. From the way he spoke, it was obvious to anyone that the second condition was about to be mentioned. Right here, 10 loud kowtows, and 10 cries of "Grandpa." As expected, as for the second condition, it's even more simple. Since the both of you are already here, let's just do it right now, Jun Moxie said in a wispy tone. At the same time, his eyes blazed coldly. You have lost. And per the agreement, the two of you must give me 10 loud and sincere kowtows and call me Grandpa 10 times. The moment these words came out, the entire crowd erupted. Although there was indeed such a condition in the blood oath, no one would have imagined that this young master Mo Junyi would actually be so daring as to really demand for its fulfillment. If he really insisted today to go through with the demand, the entire Zhan family would most likely carry this hatred towards him forever, without the possibility of it ever being resolved. Anyone who intended to have a smooth future in the misty illusory manner would never think of carrying out such a demand, even if it was promised to them. Because, offending the Zhan family in the misty illusory manner was basically no different from committing suicide. You! Zhan Qingfeng's calm and refined expression had long disappeared to God knows where. His eyes were red and bloodshot as he growled. Mo Junyi. Don't go too far. What? You want to go back on your words? Jun Moxie said with a cold smile. That was a blood oath that you swore on the names of your entire Zhan family's ancestors and descendants. Even if I'm willing to let you off, will your Zhan family agree? Zhan Qingfeng and Zhan Yushu were suddenly unable to reply. The reason both of them were reacting like this was because this matter of kowtowing and calling him Grandpa was simply too difficult with their status. If they really went through with it, they might never be able to raise their heads in front of others in public again. Such a shameful matter was incredibly difficult to bear, and their natural instinct was to try to resist. But after listening to young Master Jun's warning, they suddenly realized that since the results of the bet have already been determined and the other conditions of the bet were going to be honored, if they didn't fulfill this condition of kowtowing and calling him Grandpa, then according to the terms of the blood oath, they would be cursing their own ancestors and descendants. But even though they understood this logic, if they really had to kowtow in public to this country bumpkin, how would they be viewed in society from then on? Even if they grew to a powerful level where the entire Zhan family was in their hands, today's failure would still be a huge shame in their lives. Large green veins throbbed violently along the temples of the two, threatening to burst apart at any time. At this point, the two of them were truly stuck, unable to retreat or advance. Even though they wanted to absolve the matter with their words, they couldn't say a single thing. Since you had the guts to design the bet, you should be prepared to lose also. Paying what you owe is the law of the heavens. Jun Moxie said lazily. It can't be that all advantages should go to you, while you can place harsh conditions on others without consequence. When you lose, you'll find a way to weasel out of it. To seize only advantages while treating others harshly is a great sin of the world. Ah! At this time, there was only a steady and cold determined look in young prodigy Mo's eyes. Anyone who looked at him now would be able to tell that there was absolutely no way of resolving this matter today. With Mo Jun Xie's ruthless attitude, there was likely no way out except for the two Zhan family brothers kowtowing and acknowledging him as grandpa. This matter was actually rather easy to resolve. As long as this great prodigy Mo let the matter go and said that the whole matter of kowtowing had actually been a joke, everything would be fine. That way, the Zhan family brothers could also easily get off the stage, and everyone would be able to go home happily. It's not us brothers going back on our words. It's that the other party was magnanimous and wouldn't allow us to kowtow. We can't possibly force him to accept the kowtow. But apart from Jun Moxie, no one else had the qualifications to say such words. At this time, young Master Jun was holding all the rights in this matter, and his face was even more fierce and uncompromising. The people who hardened their scalps and tried to speak up for the Zhan brothers all backed off after seeing his expression. Not to mention that there wasn't anyone here who was familiar with him. Even if there were, they would just be seeking their own humiliation if they tried to dissuade him. Finally, while the entire hall was silent and the three in the middle were stuck in an uncomfortable deadlock, a white-haired old man came out, his eyes squinting and wreathed in smiles as he laughed. Young Master Mo, look, the witnesses have all confirmed your victory and the challenge has ended. Shouldn't you, Kiki? This little joke of a bet, why don't you just forget about it? In any case, the spiritual herbal gardens entry slot you want is already guaranteed, why not? Everyone turned around instantly, all of them recognizing this old man. This old fellow could be considered quite knowledgeable as well, but his character left nothing to be desired. He was always toadying up to the Zhan family, doing all kinds of things for them. Nobody was surprised that he stood out now to absolve the situation. Who are you? What qualifications do you have to speak here? Jun Moxie turned around and stared at him coldly. What gives you the right to interfere in a private bet between those two and me? Joke of a bet? Which part of the bet seems like a joke to you? Are you one of those involved in this bet? What kind of thing are you? Do you think that your words can represent the Zhan family? The old fellow was instantly scolded speechless and his face turned a strange green color. All this while, he had prided himself on his seniority, acting presumptuously because of his age. With his head of white and his wrinkled skin, even if others disapproved of his actions, they wouldn't make too much of a fuss about it, giving him some face. After all, it was a natural, moral standard to give way to the old. Although this old could not be said to be virtuous and was even quite some distance away from being associated with that word, with just his white hair, he could begrudgingly be considered old. Thus, he tried to take advantage of him being an elderly person and stood out to resolve the situation. From his perspective, because he was aged in years and virtue, although it was slightly abhorrible to stick his head out forcefully, he was ultimately risking his old wrinkly neck to try and reconcile the relationships of both sides. Not only would he be able to help the Zhan family greatly, he would be able to improve his relationship with the future #1 expert of the misty illusory manor. Thus, he took the risk and stepped out. But who would have thought that he would meet such a stubborn youngster, not only being unwilling to give him face, but would instead greet him with a noseful of hot fart. This old man naturally cannot represent the Zhan family. But the old fellow was initially planning to retort fiercely, accusing this youngster for not knowing how to respect the elderly, questioning his lack of morals, shaming him in public, and letting him know the consequences of offending him. Even if he couldn't convince the kid, he could still stir up the situation, allowing the two young masters of the Zhan family to have a stage to step off of. But who would have thought that just as he was about to begin his long tirade, he would be directly interrupted by Jun Moxie. "You old bastard. If you can't represent the Zhan family, what the hell did you come out here for? Could it be that you really think of yourself as highly regarded and well respected? Why should this daddy give you face? How dare you jump out here and spout nonsense while you can't represent the Zhan family? Are you too bloated with bullshit? Or are you fecking feeling horny now that it's spring?" The old man was cursed until his chest heaved up and down violently as he pointed his fingers with disbelief, spluttering and choking on his own anger. You. Please subscribe to this channel so that we are more enthusiastic in providing the best video for you. Chapter 980. Kowtow. You? Quickly scram to the side for me. Keep prattling in front of me and this daddy will have your tongue removed and fed to the dogs. How fecking annoying. Thinking yourself to be an elderly just because you have a bit of white hair and some wrinkled skin, not even 100 years old and you're already full of white hair? One can only say that you're useless. You don't have any abilities and yet you dare to come out here and act tough? What rights do you have to act tough? With just that disgusting mouth of yours? Even if you don't feel embarrassed, I'm ashamed for you. Jun Moxie continued with a disgusted snort. The entire crowd was instantly stunned. This brat hadn't seemed this vicious during the competition. But now, just this formidability in scolding was likely something that nobody in the entire misty illusory manor could match. This skill of his was truly too refined. But after seeing this old fellow get scolded until he almost had a stroke, nobody dared to raise their heads no matter how Zhan Qingfeng and Zhan Yushu looked in their direction for help. Whether their relationship was good or not, everyone simply pretended as if there was a pile of gold under their feet. What a joke. Didn't you see that old tortoise being cursed to such a pitiful state? If we went up and also got cussed out like that, where will we put our face in the future? We simply can't offend that person. That person is the possessor of the legendary free and natural physique. Even your mighty Zhan family can only use sneaky tricks against him, not daring to even hurt so much as a hair on his body. What are we worth? Not only will we fail to change the situation, we will end up opposing this free and natural physique prodigy. Do you take us for fools? Jun Moxie's intended purpose had been achieved. Right now, the Zhan family two brothers were truly at an extremely awkward state with no one to look to save them. In the end, it was actually Miao Xiao Miao who sighed and advised in a soft voice. "Brother Mo, let's put today's matter behind and stop now. It'll be beneficial for both sides as well. If you thoroughly offend the Zhan family, your future here. Beneficial for both sides? After today's matter, is there still a possibility for me and them to coexist peacefully? Even if I let them off today magnanimously, do you think that those two brothers will cast away their hatred because of it? Or do you think that the Zhan family will go lightly on me because of this, forgetting the enmity?" Jun Moxie rolled his eyes and asked. Impossible. Miao Xiao Miao instantly understood as well. Her thinking had been too naive. Mo Junyi had already thoroughly offended the Zhan family, so even if he offended them further, what difference would it make? Things had already worsened to such a state that it couldn't get any worse. So even if the situation was aggravated 10 times over, the result would be the same. This was basically the saying, when you're covered with lice, you don't itch. When you're up to your ears in debt, you stop worrying. I say, can the two of you over there hurry up? Everyone here is a busy person. How much longer are you planning to delay this for? Jun Moxie said in an impatient manner. It's such a simple matter. I'm not asking you to kill yourselves. Is there a need to be so troubled? Isn't it just 10 Kowtows and calling me grandpa 10 times only? What's the big deal? Just bend the knee. And move your mouth. It'll be over in a moment. Look at how you're hemming and hawing like little girls. The crowd nearly all fainted together. Just 10 Kowtows? And only? Why does it sound so simple in your mouth? Why don't you try it yourself and see if it's that simple? Monarch Jun Xie, are you really intending to be so ruthless? You're really dead set on bringing our two sides to an irreconcilable state. Zhan Yushu's expression was cold and stern. Second young master Zhan jests. What hatred is there between us? Isn't it just a simple bet which you lost? You were the ones who said that one must honor their words if they dare to bet. And you two young masters should also know the results of breaking your promise very well. The choice is in your hands. But since second young master Zhan has asked, I don't wish to humor you with more bullshit. I'll just ask something in return. Of the 5 matches just now, if I lost even a single one, conceding the bet, would you let me off on those 3 conditions? Do not do to others what you would not have them do to you. You have made your own law only to fall foul of it yourself. Who can you blame? Jun Moxie looked mockingly at him. Second young master Zhan, I will give you a word of advice. Do not assume that you are the only clever person in this world, thinking that you can treat the rest of the world as fools to be manipulated as you please. With your current intellect, I really can't bear to scold you. Indeed, there are truly lots of clever people in this world. And there are also many who enjoy disguising themselves as pigs to devour tigers. People with ulterior motives are also aplenty. A boisterous voice rang out as a white-robed old man suddenly appeared. Young Master Mo is indeed a peerlessly clever person who has seen through everything in life, while all things in the world are already in the palms of your hands. Has this old man spoke rightly? Zhan Bingfeng, the joint chief of the Zhan family. This person is the younger brother of the current Zhan family's patriarch. He actually came personally this time. Miao Xiao Miao transmitted her voice to Jun Moxie, informing him of the identity of this person. When Zhan Qingfeng and Zhan Yushu saw this old man, their eyes lit up with a "Our Savior is here" excited gleam. They were like a couple of drowning men who'd suddenly spotted a piece of floating wood. Joint Chief? Doesn't seem that way. Jun Moxie chuckled lightly in his heart. This situation to the entire Zhan family should most likely only be a minor matter. To appear now when the Zhan family was at a disadvantage and embarrassed. The position of this Zhan family should not be low. However, it shouldn't be at the level of a real joint chief. Looks like this so-called joint chief is just a signboard. Of course, the strength of this joint chief should also not be underestimated. Having already reached the 2nd level of Saint Emperor, on the same level of his second master in name by Qi Feng. Dare I ask, for Senior to come here so abruptly today, is it to help those 2 Zhan family brothers slip away from fulfilling their promise? Jun Moxie said with a light chuckle. The meaning in his words was not courteous in the slightest. Our Zhan family has always kept to our words, honoring our promises. Why would we do something so shameless? Zhan Bingfeng said with a cold smirk. Besides, these 2 disgraceful wretches actually arranged such a huge matter behind the family's back. tarnishing our good reputation. Even if you didn't want to pursue it, this old man would not let them off. What a good honoring our promises. But there's no way I won't pursue the matter. Jun Moxie replied discourteously. Even if your Zhan family disapproves of their actions, those two young Master Zhan already swore a blood oath on your Zhan family's 8 generations of ancestors and descendants. This matter has been witnessed by everyone here, and even the heavens and earth. When he heard the words, witnessed by heaven and earth, Zhan Bingfeng felt his heart drop. In that moment, he knew that the other side was bent on not letting the matter go. However, the fact that Zhan Bingfeng had been able to reach his current status meant that he was naturally not a simple person. Smiling lightly, he said, "Young Master Mo can put your mind at ease. As the saying goes, words said are like the wind, unable to be taken back. Whether or not there's a blood oath, our Zhan family will definitely not go back on our words. Right now, this old man will get these 2 disgraceful things to fulfill their vows." As he said that, he took one large step forward in front of Jun Moxie and turned around, hollering, "You 2 little bastards. Daring to bet but not daring to admit your loss. Disgracing the reputation of our Zhan family. Hurry up and come over here. Kneel down and fulfill your promise." Zhan Qingfeng and Zhan Yushu's faces turned the color of dead ash as they hurriedly knelt down on the ground. Then, they respectfully kowtowed 10 times and shouted, "Grandpa," 10 times. Miao Xiao Miao's face instantly changed. At this time, Jun Moxie also snorted coldly. "What are the 2 of you doing? Which direction are you facing as you kneel?" Zhan Bingfeng's face stiffened and he remained quiet, not saying anything. However, his tall and well-built frame still remained right in front of Jun Moxie, covering him completely. The kowtows and acknowledgement of "Grandpa" had all been intercepted by him. Furthermore, Zhan Bingfeng was indeed the 2's grand uncle. This was simply too despicable. But when confronted with this question now, they couldn't answer at all. There was basically no way to answer this. Those who knew what was going on would be able to see the strangeness in their postures, but because they were cheating shamelessly, they couldn't answer the question. "Could it be you expect us to admit in public that we weren't kowtowing to you?" Young friend Mo. Our Zhan family has indeed lost this challenge. All right. Don't worry. We will definitely get that entry slot for you. 5 days later, when the spiritual herbal gardens is open, this old man guarantees on behalf of the entire Zhan family that there will definitely be a slot for you. As for that last condition, young friend Mo can look for us anytime to raise it. Our Zhan family will definitely not go back on our words. Zhan Bingfeng laughed aloud. Today, our Zhan family's reputation had been completely tarnished by these 2 brats. This seat still needs to bring them back home to deal with them, so we'll be bidding our farewell now. With a swift grab, he carried Zhan Qingfeng and Zhan Yushu up, quickly jumping out of the window and disappearing without a trace. He actually didn't even give Jun Moxie a chance to speak and instantly escaped. Motherfucker. Shameless. The young are shameless, and the old is even more despicable. The Zhan family is simply a family of shameless and despicable people. Bunch of hooligans. Joint Chief my ass. I pooey. Dog shut Joint Chief. Jun Moxie had nowhere to vent his anger, and he directly cursed with rage. But though he was incensed and was cursing freely, and though everyone knew that the Zhan family had behaved shamelessly, those 10 kowtows had still become a mark of humiliation that the Zhan family would never be able to wash away. Even if Zhan Bingfeng had been blocking in front of Jun Moxie, it was still the same. Because everyone knew why there was the 10 kowtows. Right now, the entire crowd was as silent as cicadas during winter, and not a single person dared to make a single sound. For the past few thousand years, no one had ever dared to cuss at the Zhan family in public like this before. Right now, it was only great prodigy Mo's voice. If the rest of them so much as made the slightest bit of sound and ended up being mistaken by the Zhan family, ending up being the focus of their revenge, they would really be finished. This story will be continued to chapter 981. For those of you who are not subscribed yet, please subscribe. The interesting and best stories will be updated. See you again in the next episode.